recording.
All right.
Now we are.
Okay.
The REC came on.
Okay,
Okay.
cool. Well, this is class 4 of 6. And we're starting getting more specific about how to invest in
Right.
some of the tools. But let's quickly go over the first 3 in about 1 minute. Number 1, we talked about behaviors. And we talked about knowing how much you have and how you spend your money.
Yeah.
And I'm still dealing with folks and helping them outside this class, and that is the biggest issue.
It is.
I mean, I can tell them about how to buy stocks and bonds and what to do, and they say, "Okay, Dave, go do it," and I'll do it, and they'll do it, and it's mechanical. You hit a button, and technology and industry is making that easier. But to unlearn behavior, is a real challenge for people. And I'll say it, and they trust me, they hear me, they're smart, they get A's in college, and the words don't necessarily penetrate to change behavior. It's fascinating to me that somebody like me who's, very analytical, and it's very hard for people to change their attitudes about money, debt.
It is pretty deep-seated.
Pretty deep-seated.
It really is. You have to really, really work on it consciously all the time.
All the time. And what I'd recommend for those like that is to spend 10 minutes a day
Yeah.
looking at your data, logging on to your Schwab account, just looking at it. Pay attention to it. And that'll force you yourself to ask questions. What's that mean? What's that doing? Why has that changed?
Or even just the question of today, what is my relationship? How is my relationship with money?
Okay?
Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? Like,
Yes.
I got up, I went to Starbucks or I didn't, or,
Exactly.
what actions did I do today that either brought me closer to being aware or further away?
Exactly right. Excellent point.
And
Excellent.
and kind of charting it for a month,
Exactly. Just exactly right. Just chart.
and looking at the wins. And,
Exactly.
Because that's when the behaviors,
Absolutely.
you see the payoff of it.
Exactly. And you don't even have to have a game plan to get started this thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I had this great idea. If I had 5,000 great ideas, and 3 of them I'm now doing. So I just discard them.
Right.
And it's all, and money, and I gotta tell you a funny story that my grandkids, who use the phone and everything's online, and Schwab has a great picture, it's horrible for me, somebody riding a bike, stopping the bike, and using their phone. And
Oh,
I'm
that's-
saying, what a horrible thing to show.
Right.
But when my grandkids have to deal with like a check or electronic payment of their check, so they gotta send a check to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
They have no idea what it is. They don't have checks, they have no idea, how do I do
Right.
it, what's a check? I already have a debit card,
Why do I need a check?
and it's at another account, and it's a fog.
Yeah.
So just because they can electronically get the stuff, anyway.
But it's the same fog that we have when we're like dealing with the electronic stuff.
It
Like,
is.
I can no sooner do
Except-
Venmo than I can.
Except they're not getting closer
Yeah, you
to
could.
No, I
understanding
can do anything.
financial business, personal business. That's my
Right.
point. The kids are not any closer to understanding what we're talking about
Right.
than we are, even with all the technology. Okay, so we talked about behaviors, we talked about savings, and we talked about 3 kinds, and I wanted to sort of just put it up there to just be clear.
Treasure bills,
There's
bonds.
there's cash, savings, and investments. Today, for the next 3 weeks, we'll talk about the investments, but T-bills and CDs, and I added one, municipal bonds. And most of
Hi.
those kind of savings will be outside your retirement program. And so you generally don't want bonds outside your retirement program. You do not want them because they generate interest. Stocks generate dividends, right? Get a
Right.
dividend.
Yeah.
That's taxed at 15%.
Right.
Interest is a regular
Tax.
tax.
Wow.
Okay.
So, in general,
That's
you have
good.
exceptions. When you want to balance your portfolio, you put your bonds in your retirement account.
Why did they make municipal bonds?
Well, except for municipal bonds, they're the exception.
Oh, okay.
Because, that's why they're called municipal, that's why I wrote up there, municipal bonds. Because they don't have, they're not taxed federally, they're taxed statewide, unless you buy a bond issued by the state of Maryland.
Okay.
In general, municipal bonds are not taxed with federal taxes.
What is the difference okay.
So if AT&T puts out the bond, the AT&T wants to issue bonds, and you buy it outside retirement account,
Right.
retirement account, they're gonna issue interest,
Okay.
and they're taxable as salary.
But why would you get A&T, and this is just,
Mhm.
A&T gives you offers municipal bonds?
No, AT&T municipal is city and counties.
Oh, okay.
Municipal, I'm sorry, that's good, it's a
Okay.
government.
Okay.
State of
city,
Maryland,
yeah, right.
State of Maryland, State of Kentucky,
Okay.
Montgomery County.
Okay.
Municipals, the
Right.
term means government. That's a good question.
Right. But it's not a federal government thing.
No, it could be a local government.
Right.
And they created this thing 1,000 years ago so people will buy those
So why
things.
did you say AT&T
Because AT,
offered a municipal bond?
no, they didn't. If
Oh,
I
okay.
said that, I didn't mean that.
Okay,
No, they can't. They can't.
so it's only like government.
So you're
things that they're-
investing in your state.
in
You're
your- or your
investing in
county.
Well, you don't have to. I buy municipal bonds, a mutual fund that invests all over the place. I mean,
Right.
They get New York, this is in California,
Okay.
this is, and so if you buy a mutual fund that sells municipal bonds, you don't pay federal tax, but you pay state tax. Unless, like T. Rowe Price will issue a municipal mutual fund just for Maryland stuff. Just for Maryland.
But you can buy it anywhere, any municipal,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, you can buy a bond. I'm talking about mutual funds.
Okay, so municipal bonds are only your local,
Local,
State.
federal, state, exactly.
it's not federal too. There are federal.
I don't think, no,
municipal-
they're T-bills and T-bond.
Okay.
They're
Treasury bills. are
the words are different.
Right, I
Okay.
got it.
Oh,
The words
okay.
are different. And yet, T-bills are taxed federally.
Right, because they're federal.
They're
Okay.
taxed federally.
You could go
It's-
crazy just.
You
knowing
could, but that's why I put it up there. It's real.
Right.
what- Yeah,
So if you have money, and the savings is for like money you need in 3 years,
Right.
weddings, education,
Right.
retiring, that's where I got it. I got my money in T-bills. So I actually got all three.
Okay.
Now, what I don't have there is like T-bills are like 4-week, 8-week, 13-week, 26 weeks. So, and it changes. So the interest rate could be great today. You buy an 8-week T-bill, and 8 weeks later, the interest rates go down. You say, oh, damn, I should have bought.
Right.
Where CDs are longer, slightly more interest. But if you don't need the money, you'd say, well, I don't need the money for a year and a half. I'll buy a 3% CD. You can't do it today. And you lock in the interest rate.
Okay.
yeah.
Of course, you lock it in. If it goes up,
But
then it's,
whatever interest rate is, whatever interest earned is taxed higher than a
Municipal.
dividend.
yes, absolutely. Yes, that's a good point. Yes, the CDs are all interest, taxed higher than the dividend. That's
Yeah.
right. And municipal bonds. Now, municipal bonds you buy like stocks and bonds. So it goes up and it goes down a little bit.
Right.
But the aptitude, the thing goes up
Right.
is relatively small. So anyway, and then we're going to talk about stocks and bonds.
Investment.
Okay. You two of you know what a mutual fund is. You know when a mutual fund started? 1924.
Well,
1924.
Wow.
And do you know, I'm looking at my notes here, the oldest mutual fund today started in 1925. So you can buy
Wow.
them, it's not doing very well at the moment. I looked online. But yeah, so it's been around a long time. And somebody
Right.
got the idea in the 20s that instead of trying to pick a stock, let's let these really smart people put 4 or 5 of them together and you buy into their portfolio 4 or 5 stocks.
Okay.
So that's what a mutual fund is.
okay.
It's been around a long time.
So Oppenheimer would be a mutual fund.
But you got to give it a name. Oppenheimer is a company. They may have 15 mutual funds.
Okay.
One's called large capitalization, small capitalization. Oppenheimer is a company that issues multiple mutual funds.
Okay.
Vanguard has 25 of them. Schwab has a whole bunch. And
Right, right.
so all these big companies have mutual funds. So they hire smart people, sit around like this, and they say, we're going to create a portfolio of things that you and I are willing to buy. To buy. Okay, that introduces the term market capitalization,
Right.
because there's mutual funds that are large cap, small cap. And you know what it is? Know what the capitalization is? It's just simple. You multiply the number of shares outstanding, right,
Right.
times the price, the stock price. So you go online today. I'll tell you there's so many. I'm saying 1 million shares of Microsoft outstanding,
Yeah.
and that's on the website.
Yeah.
And you look at the price today, multiply the two, and you can find out what the market capitalization of Microsoft is. Just
Okay.
multiply
The
two-
value of the company.
value of the company, and it's kind of strange. It goes up and down
Right.
based on. So, who do you think is the largest market capitalization in the country today? Changes all the time.
Apple?
Pretty
Google-
close.
Amazon?
Microsoft is 966 billion.
Wow.
Who else did you say? I got
Amazon?
the
Amazon.
Amazon's on the list.
Let's see.
The watch
Watches?
people?
Apple,
Apple, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Facebook, Johnson & Johnson, Walmart, Visa, Bank of America, MasterCard, Verizon, Disney, AT&T,
Right.
Pfizer, Cisco.
All the big.
They're all large cap, greater than 10 billion. So when you buy a mutual fund that only has large caps in them, or
Yeah,
greater than 10 billion.
okay.
Now what's unique about,
They have 10 billion outstanding stock?
multiply stock value
price.
Oh, okay.
times the number of shares.
Okay.
Is-
And it changes,
is the
for a
word.
while Apple was on top. Apple
Right.
stock went down and there was on the third page of the Wall Street Journal, Microsoft's number. It's just a crazy,
Right.
doesn't make any difference who's number one. Okay, so large cap. So why would you buy a mutual fund with only large caps in them? They tend to be stable, right?
Right.
They don't go crazy, go up and go down. They're not
Okay.
garage store kind of, oh my God, horrible things are going to happen. So they probably have dividends. They've been around a long time. AT&T's had a dividend since 1930 or something. So it's very stable, large cap, greater than $10 billion. Small cap, less than $2 billion. And if you buy a mutual fund with only large caps in them, they tend to go.
Right.
And if people get nervous about the economy, they buy large caps, right? They get
Right.
nervous.
Okay.
And to get nervous, what do they think they sell? Small caps. So
Right.
They get nervous, small caps go
Right.
down, large caps go up. And of course you got the mid caps, and they just kind of go wherever they want to go. So that's why the term is important, just
Right.
to understand what's in the mutual fund. Each mutual fund has a five character definition. So Apple is AAPL,
Okay.
So when you
Oh,
buy
yes.
a mutual fund,
Right.
They have 5 digit,
5 characters.
5 characters.
Apple, Microsoft, they're all out there. And there's all kind of mutual funds. There's a fund only with stocks. It could be a mixture of stocks. Large cap stocks, mid cap stocks, small cap stocks. Bond funds. We just talked about you can have a
Right.
fund, you have a company that pulls all the bonds together and gets you to sell. Balanced mutual funds. A little bit of stocks, a little bit of bonds. So for a while I thought that was a cool idea, except then after a while I said, nah, I want to determine how much stocks and bonds I have. The balance sort of forces you to whatever it's doing.
Right.
And when you read its perspective, it says, well, we'll buy 50% of this and 30% of less, unless the market changes and then they're going to do something else. And so I'd rather have more control. Not that I'm any smarter than these guys in New York,
Right.
but I want the control.
Right.
And generally, it's doing nothing. I mean, most of the best things I do is nothing. So. International funds, yeah, you buy a mutual fund with all international stocks, and you look online to Schwab, and it'll tell you they're in Europe and France and Spain, and there could be only in Europe. They could be emerging markets. They could be in the more volatile countries. So what do you expect emerging markets mutual fund to go?
Yeah.
And you read the Wall Street Journal just the other day, emerging markets are going down because of the trade war, and this is happening, and you just look at this crap and you don't understand. Can't predict it. And it's always telling you after the fact.
Right.
Last week, emerging markets
Right.
go down. Well,
Right.
whoop-de-doo, right? And
Right,
so,
that's gonna help
and
you
then
today, right.
and then you get predictions, and they're no better than you.
Right.
They're better than you. And but I listen to them, and I read them and listen to them because they explain why they're saying it. I have no confidence about their conclusion.
Right.
Right.
But it's nice to know what people who study this business are thinking about.
Yeah.
And if this happens, we think this is going to go down. And if you look at Trump and you look at the trade wars and you look at the economy and you look at the impeachment, I mean, there must be a million variables that determine whether it goes up and down.
I mean, it's curious to me because it seems to me that Trump supporters are very, it's money oriented, and they think that he's
Yes.
done very much. He's done great things for the
Yes.
economy. But then on the other hand, if you look at, the trade wars or things like that, the market is all over the place
Exactly.
and it's very volatile. So I don't know how much he's done for the economy.
In general, our country overplays the importance of the president versus the economy.
Right?
Overplays it.
Overplays, yeah.
It had very little. Personally, I don't think it has anything to do with the economy. Nothing.
Right.
Zero, zippo, nothing. He gets it up in the morning and he gets on Twitter. What is that?
Right.
Does that have to do with Apple stock? Zero. Except the industry, the financial world does not like uncertainty. You want to know that your landlord is going to rent you this place for the next 3 months, 3 years, not 3 months, 3 years, so you can set the prices, you can determine the hirers, you can relax. If I'm saying to you, well, I'm not so sure about your rent, I may increase it about 20% next month, and that's only the start. All of a sudden, you're saying, oh my God. First of all, the 3 people you were going to hire, you're not going to hire.
Right.
And just the uncertainty of it all. And then you're not going to invest in nicer chairs. I mean,
Right.
that's what happens with the financial world.
Right.
So when he gets on Twitter and says, I'm going to give Mexico a 5% increase, whatever the hell he's saying,
But what I don't understand is, so if I go to Aldi's, because there's going to be a tariff, why the avocados went up? I mean, like, they shouldn't. They're already here. They're not
oh no, it's
tariffed yet.
future. Oh, you're
So
not
it's
buying
future
that
business.
just that avocado.
Right.
You're paying for the whole transportation process.
No,
Right.
but I already paid for it. I mean, it's already here.
That doesn't make any difference.
Okay. So, because,
If this costs $2, tomorrow you get a phone call that says this thing that costs $2, we're now going to charge you $12.
right,
You're looking at this one and say, oh my God, I better up the price of this, because first of all, I can't pay the customers $14, that's too much, so I gotta
right.
upgrade this one, which I bought and is in the store, and
Right.
Right.
Okay, makes perfect
it's
sense.
it's not on a one-to-one
Right.
coffee cup by
Right.
coffee cup by
Right.
coffee cup.
Right.
Right.
So you have to offset what's coming.
You gotta
What's
plan,
coming,
and that's,
right.
and that's good thinking, and that's
Right,
good planning.
Mhm.
You know, something happens with an oil, something, and there's a huge spill and bad things happen, well, the gas prices will go up. But that oil the gas was in the tank.
Right.
Has nothing to do, doesn't make a difference.
Right.
And there's a whole futures market, they're bidding on what the future, it's very complicated.
Right.
Uncertainty equals
Chaos.
big ups, that's all, just uncertainty, okay. All right, so, how do you make money in a mutual fund? First of all, if you look at a mutual fund, you know the stock, you look at the price of a stock. Apple is 189, it goes up to 92. What is the price of a mutual fund? Well, it's something called a NAV, a net asset value. And it's composed of the growth of its assets. So this number, this fictitious number, goes up if its assets, like suppose it's holding Apple and Microsoft and Facebook, and it goes up, then this NAV goes up, right?
Right.
Okay. What makes it go, what is the negative part of, which would cause it normally to go down? It's the expenses of the mutual fund. This is a big deal because they're different. And because of that, it's changed the entire industry in the last 15 years for the good. So you got to buy a mutual fund. If it's got good stuff in it, the NAV, it's like 10, goes up. But if they're spending a lot of money trying to pick their stock, who do you think pays for those salaries in New York and $1 million condos? And we do. So that suppresses the growth of the mutual fund. So you got to look at the expense, and we'll do that in just a second, of the mutual fund. So it goes up if it's holding good stuff, and its stocks are going up. It goes down generally in a consistent way if it's spending a lot of money. So how do you make money in a mutual fund? Well, if it's holding stock, and what do stocks give you? Dividends, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the mutual fund company, Oppenheimer, gets the money, and it goes, here's something for you, something for you, something for you, something for you, based on how much mutual funds you own.
Right.
Okay. If you're holding a bond fund, if you bought a bond fund,
Right.
bonds don't generate dividends,
Hello.
but they generate interest, right?
Right.
So they get interest. They go. So every month you get interest for your
Okay.
mutual bond.
Okay.
Okay. So you get money for
That's it.
mutual funds on interest.
Right.
If it's a bond fund, dividends if it's a stock fund. And then, of course, the value of these things go up. The mutual fund itself, this NAV goes up. And if you buy it here and sell it here, right?
Right.
You make money because you
Right.
bought it at 3 and sold it at 5. Okay, the big deal is the expense ratio. And this is that annual fee that mutual funds charge you. Now, here is the expense ratio of all the funds that you have. And we can take a look at it. Now, the expense ratio is a percent, okay? So take the first one. So if you owned American Funds 2010, the expense ratio is 0.39, right?
Right.
What that means, that's a percent, not a, so so suppose you had $1 million, you got a calculator there? Okay, so if you had $1 million in American Funds 20.10, $1 million, how much would American Funds charge you for the right to own that fund? So you take $1 million times 0.0039, it's a percent now, percent. So you multiply.
Times point
0039.
3,900.
Okay, so So, American Funds charges you, how much? $3,900 a year for the right to own American
see.
Funds 2010.
Okay.
Now, couple things. That number, that .39, I haven't tracked your expenses, but I looked at other American Funds expenses over the years, and that number has dramatically gone down. Dramatically.
Okay.
And you know why? Schwab.
Because they're being competitive.
Well, they don't charge.
They charge something.
Schwab has its own fund. Some of them don't charge anything.
Right.
Really?
Oh, yeah, and index funds. We'll talk about that in a second. So it has forced the entire industry to go down. Now, the thing I don't like about all this is that you have no idea that you're being charged $3,900. It's like me saying to you, you know, you're going to charge me, the customer, $4,000 a year. I'm not going to bill you. I'm not going to tell you.
Right,
I'm
right.
just going to,
There's not a transparency.
no transparency.
Right.
So where do they get the money from?
From
They take it off the
they
top.
take it off
Oh.
what you make.
Tell me, say more. Like what? How? How do you do that? How do you
Your
make?
benefits, but like because when it goes up, they take them. Hopefully, they take it. When it
They don't
goes up.
sell. No, if I
They
got
don't
100
sell-
shares
no,
of
but-
mutual,
Okay.
if I got 100 shares of mutual fund and I don't sell them at the end of the year, I still got 100.
Right, but you made dividends.
Ah, so
So-
you're telling me they're taking some of my dividends
Right.
without telling me.
Right.
Right. Not very transparent.
Right.
It's huge. Now, so my suggestion is not that these are bad numbers, but you have to pay attention to them
Mm-hmm.
because they dramatically affect your outcome. You remember we talked about,
But Schwab doesn't do 401ks.
yes, I have my 401.
Oh,
I have
okay.
yeah, they don't do them. They have, you can open up a 401k in Schwab. Sue has one, I have one.
I see. So
I have-
instead of.
But I buy
Huh?
things.
So your 401k is in Schwab, not
I
here?
have one here.
It's both. So, which
you
brings
can
up
do
another
both.
point. I'm encouraging people to open up a 401k in Schwab. Because if they move from job to job, you always want to move that stuff to a common
Sure.
area. You don't
Right.
want, some of my friends end up with a place, in multiple places. You can't balance them. You can't
Right.
control them. You have no
Yeah.
idea. So I view Schwab as sort of a holding place. So as long as they work here, they have to be in American funds, and that's good. But if Robin leaves tomorrow, I will encourage her to transfer it out of here
To Schwab.
to Schwab. And then she can buy anything she wants in Schwab. That's a whole different thing.
Right.
And American funds wouldn't be one of them, because the expense ratio is too high. Look at the bottom.
Yeah, I see that.
So here's, and
So
I'm not.
why wouldn't me